Some movies are made just to entertain you, but others leave you thinking long after the credits roll. And today's movie is one of those films. At first glance, it feels like a straightforward action revenge story. But the deeper you go, the more you realize it's really about power, greed, corruption, and how innocent people are manipulated in the name of religion and politics. In my opinion, that's what makes this movie stand out. It doesn't simply tell you who's right and who's wrong. Instead, it lets you discover how ordinary people become victims, while powerful people pull the strings from behind the scenes. So today, on CINEVORIX, let's dive into the complete story. The movie opens in the early 1930s, near the Kerala-Karnataka border. We're introduced to a massive estate, ruled by a powerful landlord named Patilar Kunjabu. This isn't just another wealthy landowner. He's the kind of man whose name alone is enough to make people afraid. The local farmers live under constant oppression, and no one dares to challenge him. One day, British officers arrive carrying an official letter, demanding taxes on agricultural land. If the taxes aren't paid, the government will seize the land. Sounds simple enough. But when Patilar reads the letter, he calmly writes a response and sends it back. The moment the British officer reads it, his expression completely changes. Instead of arguing, he immediately turns around and leaves. That single scene tells us everything we need to know. Patilar isn't just rich. His influence is so powerful that even government officials think twice before standing against him. Soon after, the story shifts to a traveling theater group performing in nearby villages. Late one night, after finishing a performance, they head home through a dark forest. Then something horrifying stops them in their tracks. Several bodies are hanging from a tree. The entire place is silent, except for one sound, a baby crying. As they search the area, they discover an infant lying among the dead. Unable to leave him behind, they take the child with them. At that moment, nobody knows. This abandoned little boy will one day become the center of the entire story. Years pass. The timeline jumps to 1957. Kerala has a new government, and major land reform policies begin changing the lives of ordinary people. Some believe these reforms will finally give poor farmers a fair chance. Others fear they're about to lose everything they own, and that's exactly where the conflict begins. Personally, I think this is one of the strongest parts of the movie. Instead of showing a simple battle between heroes and villains, it explores how fear can divide entire communities. When people are afraid, they're much easier to control. The movie then introduces a village church, where the local priest warns everyone about the growing communist movement. He claims they'll take away people's land, destroy their faith, and completely change their way of life. On the other hand, supporters of the Communist Party insist they're simply fighting for equal rights. The interesting part is that the movie doesn't immediately tell us which side is correct. It leaves that decision up to the audience. Soon we meet George, a passionate supporter of the Communist Party. He boldly plants the party's flag in the village, making it clear that he isn't backing down. Naturally, tensions rise even higher. The villagers realize they'll need someone capable of protecting them. And that's when Krishna Pillai enters the story. Ironically, he doesn't look like a warrior at all. He's calm, friendly, and spends more time laughing with children than showing off his strength. Honestly, that's what I liked about his character. The quietest people often turn out to be the strongest when it truly matters. The villagers aren't impressed at first. They're convinced this peaceful man won't survive a real fight. But that opinion doesn't last very long. After arriving in the village, Krishna learns that the land chosen for a new church is occupied by a Communist Party flag. Without hesitation, he walks over and pulls the flag out of the ground. Within seconds, George and his men rush in. What follows is the movie's first major confrontation. One man against an entire group. Despite being completely outnumbered, Krishna refuses to back down. His confidence, his discipline, and the way he handles the fight immediately earns the villagers' respect. From that moment on, everything begins to change. Krishna starts training the young men of the village. Soon, people from neighboring villages join him as well. Even young women step forward to become part of the movement. Little by little, a disciplined force begins to take shape. But what nobody realizes yet is that powerful people are already watching from the shadows. Because whenever ordinary people begin standing together, someone powerful usually has something to lose. And that's exactly where the real conspiracy begins. As Krishna becomes more involved with the village, one thing quickly becomes clear. He's not fighting for a political party. He's fighting for what's right. And that's a huge difference. Unlike everyone else, Krishna refuses to blindly pick a side. Instead, he judges people by their actions, not by their beliefs. That mindset is put to the test when the villagers ask him to shut down a traveling stage performance. According to them, the performers are spreading communist propaganda, and the show must be stopped. But Krishna doesn't immediately agree. He tells them something that reveals exactly who he is as a person. He says he came to protect innocent people, not to silence someone's voice simply because they have different opinions. Honestly, I really like this moment. It reminds us that strength isn't just about throwing punches. Sometimes it takes even more courage to think for yourself instead of following the crowd. Eventually, Krishna decides to visit the performance anyway. But before the show can even begin, chaos breaks out. A group of criminals suddenly kidnaps the lead actress and drags her away. Without wasting a second, Krishna runs after them. He doesn't ask who she is. He doesn't care what religion she belongs to. He doesn't even ask which political side she's on. All he sees is someone who needs help. And that's enough. After an intense chase, Krishna rescues the young woman and safely brings her back. The next morning, however, the village priest isn't happy. Instead of praising Krishna, he criticizes him. He reminds Krishna that he was supposed to stop the performance, not rescue one of its performers. Krishna's response is simple, but incredibly powerful. He says, "If someone is being attacked right in front of me and I choose to do nothing, how could I ever live with myself?" Personally, I think that's one of the strongest lines in the entire movie. Because real courage isn't about choosing sides. It's about standing against injustice whenever you see it. The woman Krishna saved is named Ravika. She thanks him for saving her life. At first, their conversation is nothing more than gratitude. But little by little, a genuine connection begins to grow. Then comes an unexpected surprise. Ravika already knows Krishna's real identity. The villagers know him by another name, but somehow, she knows he's actually Krishna Pillai. The surprising part is, she keeps his secret. She doesn't judge him. She doesn't expose him. Because unlike everyone else, Ravika believes a person's character matters far more than their background. And honestly, that's exactly why her character stands out. She sees people for who they truly are, not for the labels society gives them. As the two spend more time together, Ravika shares her biggest dream. She doesn't dream about wealth. She doesn't dream about power. She wants to build a school, a place where children from nearby villages can finally get an education without risking dangerous journeys through forests, rivers, and mountains. In my opinion, this makes Ravika one of the most inspiring characters in the movie. While everyone else is fighting over land, she's thinking about the future of an entire generation. Eventually, Krishna opens up about his own past, and that's when we learn why he's carried so much pain for so many years. When he was just a child, a ruthless landlord seized his family's land. His parents were murdered simply because they refused to surrender. Then, when justice finally seemed possible, the system failed them. Krishna's older sister bravely stepped forward to identify the killers. But before she could expose the truth, she was brutally silenced. That tragedy changed Krishna forever. He realized something that stayed with him for the rest of his life. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect justice become part of the injustice instead. Ravika then shows Krishna the piece of land where she hopes to build her school. To everyone else, it looks like an ordinary piece of property, but Krishna senses something isn't right. Too many powerful people seem interested in that land, and that's when he begins to suspect this conflict isn't really about religion. It isn't even about politics. Something much bigger is hiding beneath the surface, and whatever that secret is, it's powerful enough to get innocent people killed. After meeting Ravika, something inside Krishna begins to change. For the first time in years, he starts questioning everything he once believed. Until now, he thought this was simply a fight between two opposing ideologies. But the deeper he looks, the more he realizes someone else is pulling the strings. Someone is deliberately turning ordinary people against each other. And unfortunately, the people paying the highest price are the innocent ones. Krishna returns to the village and tries to explain what he's learned. He tells everyone that not every communist is their enemy, but nobody is willing to listen. Fear has controlled these people for years. And once fear becomes part of someone's identity, the truth becomes incredibly difficult to accept. Personally, I think the movie handles this idea really well. Because history has shown us that when people are constantly fed fear and misinformation, they often stop questioning what's actually true. Then everything falls apart. Krishna's real identity is finally exposed. The man the villagers respected, the man who trained their children, the man they once called their protector, is suddenly treated like an outsider. Not because he changed, but because people discovered who he really was. And that's one of the movie's most powerful moments. It quietly asks a difficult question. Does a person's identity matter more than the good they've done? When Krishna risked his life for the village, nobody cared about his religion. But the moment they learned his real name, everything changed. The villagers force him to leave. It's heartbreaking because Krishna doesn't argue. He doesn't fight back. He simply accepts their decision. Before he leaves, the young men he trained gather around him. They refuse to let him go. For them, Krishna isn't just a teacher. He's family, but Krishna gently tells them to stay behind. Because he knows, trust can never be forced. If people need time to discover the truth, they have to find it on their own. As Krishna walks toward the bus station, he runs into Ravika once again. By now, she also knows the entire truth. But unlike everyone else, nothing about her feelings has changed. She still sees the same honest man she met before. Not a religion, not a political label, just Krishna. As they spend more time together, their friendship slowly turns into love. And honestly, their relationship feels surprisingly natural. The movie doesn't force the romance. Instead, it grows through mutual respect and shared values. Both of them believe that people deserve a better future, and that's what brings them together. For a brief moment, It feels like Krishna has finally found happiness. But this movie doesn't let that peace last for long, because a far more dangerous player is about to enter the story. His name is Reru Ramana. He's not just another criminal. He's a ruthless enforcer who works for people far more powerful than himself. One day, he blocks a passenger bus on the road. Ravika happens to be inside. What follows is one of the darkest moments in the entire film. Reru brutally murders Ravika, and then turns his violence toward everyone else on the bus. At almost the same time, violence erupts in Krishna's village as well. At first, everyone assumes it's another clash between rival groups. But the truth is far more disturbing. None of this happened by accident. Every attack, every riot, every death has been carefully planned. When Krishna arrives at the hospital, he's already worried about the injured villagers. But then, he sees Ravika's body. Everything around him suddenly feels empty. This isn't just another loss. It's the second time life has taken away someone he truly loved. As a child, he lost his family. Now, he's lost the woman who gave him hope again. In my opinion, this is the emotional turning point of the movie. Krishna isn't driven by revenge alone anymore. He's driven by grief, by guilt, and by the realization that innocent people will keep dying unless someone stops. The people behind all of this. Slowly, the truth begins to surface. The mysterious mountain near the village isn't cursed after all. It's valuable, extremely valuable. Hidden beneath it lies a fortune that powerful men desperately want to control. And suddenly, everything starts making sense. The religious conflicts, the political chaos, the violence. It was never really about beliefs. It was always about greed. Ravika's land was part of that larger plan. She refused to sell it. She wanted to build a school instead. And that's exactly why she became a target. Krishna finally understands. Ravika wasn't killed because of politics. She was murdered because she stood in the way of powerful people. Now there's only one question left. Will Krishna walk away once again? Or will he finally take the fight to the people who created this entire nightmare? Ravika's death changes everything. The pain Krishna carries is no longer just personal. It becomes a reason to fight, not for revenge alone, but for everyone who's been manipulated, silenced, and sacrificed by people chasing power. As the investigation unfolds, the truth finally begins to surface. The mountain everyone feared for generations was never cursed. It was sitting on an enormous reserve of gold, and that's the secret powerful people had been hiding all along. Suddenly, every piece of the puzzle falls into place. The riots, the political clashes, the religious divisions, none of it happened by chance. It was all carefully engineered to force ordinary families off their land, so a handful of influential men could take control of the mountain. Honestly, this is where the movie surprised me the most. It starts as what feels like a local conflict, but eventually reveals something much bigger. The real enemy was never religion. It was greed disguised as ideology. That's a message that still feels incredibly relevant today. Krishna also realizes why Ravika was murdered. She wasn't killed because of who she was. She was killed because she refused to give up her land. Instead of selling it, she wanted to build a school where children from every background could study together. That dream made her dangerous to people whose only goal was profit. In many ways, Ravika becomes the heart of this story. Even after her death, her dream continues to inspire everyone around her. Back in the village, something remarkable begins to happen. People who once viewed each other as enemies slowly begin to understand the truth. They finally realized they were never fighting their real enemy. They had simply been manipulated. Years of hatred had been created by people who wanted complete control over the land. During Ravika's funeral, Krishna delivers one of the movie's most meaningful speeches. He reminds everyone that the bullets and the violence never cared about anyone's religion. The people who died came from different communities, but they all suffered the same fate. For the first time, the villagers stopped thinking as separate groups. They stand together. And in my opinion, that's Krishna's greatest victory. Not defeating someone in combat, but helping divided people become one community again. If you're enjoying this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe to CINEVORIX. It really helps the channel and motivates us to bring you more movie recaps like this. Meanwhile, the enemy makes its final move. Reru Ramana gathers a heavily armed force and launches an all-out assault on the villages. His mission is simple: burn everything. Leave no witnesses. Force everyone to abandon the land forever. But this time, things don't go according to plan. Krishna had already anticipated the attack. He secretly evacuated the villagers before Ramana's men arrived. The attackers set fire to empty homes, believing they had won. But the real battle was waiting somewhere else. When Ramana's forces finally reach the neighboring village, they're met by something completely unexpected. The villagers don't run, they fight back. And this time, they're fighting side by side. People who once distrusted each other are now protecting one another. That's exactly what the people behind this conspiracy never expected. Because fear divides people, but truth brings them together. The battle quickly turns into a full-scale war. Ramana personally joins the fight and goes straight after Krishna. At first, Krishna struggles against him. Ramana is stronger, more ruthless, and has absolutely no mercy. But Krishna isn't fighting with anger alone anymore. He's carrying the memory of his parents, the loss of his sister, Ravika's dream, and the hope of every innocent family standing behind him. Then during the fight, Ramana makes a fatal mistake. He starts bragging. He openly admits that Ravika's murder wasn't random. It was an order. He also reveals the name of the man responsible for everything. Patelar, the same man who destroyed Krishna's family years ago, has been controlling this entire operation from the shadows. At that moment, Krishna finally understands that Ramana was never the real villain. He was just another weapon. The true mastermind is still waiting. And now, there's only one battle left to fight. After defeating Reru Ramana, Krishna finally uncovers the truth he's been chasing his entire life. Ramana wasn't the mastermind. He was just a weapon. The man pulling every string from the shadows was Patelar, the same ruthless landlord responsible for destroying Krishna's family years ago. At this point, the movie shifts from a story of revenge to something much bigger. It's no longer just about Krishna settling an old score. It's about standing up against a corrupt system where powerful people manipulate ordinary lives for money and control. Personally, I think that's what makes this ending so impactful. The movie reminds us that evil rarely works alone. There's almost always someone hiding behind the scenes, using others to do the dirty work. Determined to end it once and for all, Krishna heads straight for Patelar's estate. The man who once terrified an entire region is finally forced to face someone who isn't afraid of him anymore. What follows is the film's biggest confrontation. Krishna fights his way through Patelar's guards, refusing to back down no matter how impossible the odds seem. Every punch, every step, every decision feels driven by years of pain, loss, and unanswered questions. Eventually, Krishna and Patelar come face to face. This isn't just a fight between two men. It's a clash between greed and justice. Patelar believes power comes from fear. Krishna believes real strength comes from protecting people who can't protect themselves. Their final battle is intense, emotional, and beautifully choreographed. Just when it seems we're about to get a clear winner, the movie throws one last surprise. Krishna launches his spear at Patelar. At the exact same moment, Patelar fires his gun. The two attacks collide, and the screen cuts to black. That's it. No clear answer. No confirmation of who survived. And honestly, I think that was the right creative choice. Instead of giving us a neat Hollywood ending, the filmmakers leave the conflict unresolved, making it clear that some battles don't end with a single fight. They're part of a much larger struggle. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. It isn't perfect, and at times the pacing slows down. But the themes it explores, power, corruption, manipulation, and unity, give the story far more depth than a typical action drama. Krishna is an easy character to root for because he never fights for fame or power. He fights because he refuses to stay silent when innocent people suffer. And Ravika, despite having limited screen time, leaves a lasting impact. Her dream of building a school represents hope in a world consumed by hatred and greed. For me, that's the real heart of the movie. So if you're looking for an action film with emotional weight, meaningful themes, and a story that keeps expanding as it unfolds, Palachuttambi is definitely worth checking out. If you enjoyed this full breakdown, don't forget to like the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to CINEVORIX for more cinematic breakdowns, hidden details, and ending explanations. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.